Alright, welcome to the last video where I'll show you how to attach the corals to the insert and how I painted the whole structure. You can see that I've started to paint the base of the structure with a dark, almost black mixture of SmoothCast 322. I keep this first coat dark and viscous because I want the paint to seep into the nooks and crannies of the rock to give the insert the impression of depth and shadows. The next color is a random shade of gray to give the insert a more rock-like base color. Now, I've never taken a painting class, so I'm just trying to evenly paint out the spots and make it look random like you would find in nature. And on natural rocks found in the sea, sometimes you see faint browns, and so that's my next color choice here. It's an important point to make that you should start with the colors you want to be blended into the background. Basically, the colors you start with will be hard to see. The next color I'm going to use here is dark green, like the algae that we all love so much. After the blacks, browns, and greens, I move on to a variety of purples. I'll use some brighter purples first and then add some purple and red mixtures of different amounts to give a large range of coralline algae colors. With these more prominent colors, I mix in a few pinches of Urefil 11 to thicken up the paint. This makes it much easier to paint with, opposed to waiting for the reaction to start like I did the first time around, which was just stupid. Now, when I was mixing up the colors for the base rock, I used those small bathroom-sized cups to measure out each part, and later, when I start painting the corals themselves, I make very small batches that are measured out with separate oral syringes. These are perfect for preventing wasted plastic and make the 1-to-1 ratio just right. While I paint the purples on the insert, I try to avoid painting on the underside of rock outcroppings or any other places that coralline would not normally grow. This gives it a little bit more of a realistic feel. You should be able to tell by now that my purples range from bluish purple to a reddish purple and various brightnesses between them. Basically, the more variety of colors and coats you can put on it, the better I think it'll look. And I also added some small areas of bright red that could be sponge growth or something like that. And while I was doing this, I realized that it was a little too red. If you notice the same on yours, it's real easy to blend it with a dry foam brush. And that's about it. Just paint over any mistakes you make and take your time. In this next portion of the video, I'm going to show you how I attach the corals to the insert. Starting with mixing up some plastic to use as a glue for this group of corals. I used rubber bands to hold the group together, and here's the result of that gluing. A group of corals makes it a lot easier to attach it to the insert beforehand rather than trying to group them on there as you glue them on. For this, I'm using the same two-part plastic as I did for the whole structure, SmoothCast 322 and Urefil 11. And when you're mixing up small batches for the glue, I tried to also match the color of the insert to minimize blending later on. After you have a thick glue-like mixture, just slap some of it on the spot that you want to mount the coral and tape the coral in place using some painter's tape. It's pretty straightforward from here. You just continue mounting the corals where you want them and until you have the coverage that you want. And right at the end here, you can see the orange flat pieces that I made earlier rolled up and glued with the plastic. These pieces actually broke later on, but the way they broke actually ended up making it look more realistic, so I looked out on that one. Okay, the last thing to do is paint the corals. For this part, I experimented with one of my GoPro cameras on a head mount, so if the footage sucks, I'm sorry. I don't have any other footage of it as well. First, you can see me mixing up the small paint batches using an oral syringe to measure out the two parts. I'll blend the glue points of the corals and insert first and work my way around to all the corals. I used some really cheap paint brushes from Walmart that came in a pack of 40 and some foam brushes to use as a sponge tool. Once again, I'm not a painter, so I really shouldn't give any advice here. If you like my final product, then just try to copy what I did, and if you don't like it, then don't do what I did. And there was about 4.5 hours of painting footage, so I only included small portions of the video in this time lapse here. After all that painting and some finishing touches, here's the final insert that I ended up with. I like it a lot more than the last one, and it looks much more realistic as well. I want to thank you again for watching this long series, and if you have any questions, I always try to respond in the comments section.